Nant, very big welcome to you to Finding Flow. It's really good to have you here. So thank you for joining.
Thank you, Kyle, for inviting. It's a pleasure to be on board.
Well, I want to start with something that you wrote that stopped me when I read it. You said farmers weren't poor in grain; they were poor in time. Where did that realization hit you? And when did it go from an observation to something that you felt you had to do something about?
So, Kyle, I'm an agriculture graduate and a postgraduate also in agribusiness management. I started my career with ICICI Bank. So
Yeah.
while we were working there, we realized evolved a product called commodity-based finance. Now,
Hmm.
this product was basically evolved to address or bring people on board to the institutional finance which is available. Now with
Yeah.
a target to farmers and all. And when I was working there, I realized that the bank is doing this business where they're trying to shift the risk from the balance sheet calls or the credit call to the commodity call, there is still a room left for it to go to smaller territories, where especially
Mm.
closer to the farm gates. What we realize is going to the farm gates would come at a higher transaction cost. So how do
Yeah.
I evolve a model where I'm able to manage warehouses and make warehouses available for smaller farmers or for smaller warehouses which are near the hinterlands? So when we evolved a structure around it, and coming to your question, we realized that the farmer has two basic problems today,
Mm.
and for which there is no choice. There were limited choices available to them. So we thought of giving them freedom or offering them two choices. Choice number one, when to sell, and choice number two, whom to sell. Now,
Mm.
if you look at traditionally, most of the places at the time of harvest, there is a glut in the market and
Hmm.
prices of the commodities generally go down because there's a demand supply game, and farmer needs money immediately because farmer has to meet the consumption need for the family. Farmer has to meet the need to buy fresh inputs for the next season which they need to sow the seeds, fertilizer, pesticide. So in the so storage was not only a solution. Storage
Mm.
also has to be coupled with making finance available to them, or money.
Yeah.
So storage along with finance. So we initially started as a warehousing company. Then we realized that though banks have talking about going to farmer, but the interest level of the farmers or the banks was very limited in lending to farmers because of the small ticket size. That's
Yeah.
when we thought, okay, let's have our own non-banking financial company so that we can extend loan to those kind of farmers who are small and owing to the transaction cost, some of the bankers are not so keen to extend finance to them. So that's where,
Mm.
the storage piece got layered with finance. And later on, as we kept evolving, we realized that we have solved the problem of farmers from when to sell, but whom to sell is still to be addressed. So, and to build that over the period of years with the warehousing, we have built a trust in the market where most of the large corporates or the market participants were aware about Arya. And there was a trust built that the quality which has been declared by Arya would be of the same nature as what has been declared. So
Mm.
that gave us a confidence that why not set up a platform where the participant can come and do a discovery for the warehouse which is managed by us, as well as use it as a platform to sell or buy the commodities. So that answered the second question in terms of when to sell. So the second choice came in then. And with the second choice also came in some bit of embedded finance, wherein in case without this platform, the farmer will have to pay the loan to take the stocks out of the warehouse. Now we link
Mhm.
this model in a way that the loan was repaid through the platform, the surplus was given to the farmer, and then the collection of money from the end buyer was the responsibility of the platform. So that's an additional leeway which was available to the people who were working with us. So it helped them to solve the two basic problems: when to sell and whom to sell.
Let's rewind properly. So you studied agriculture, went into ICICI Bank, spent nearly a decade building commodity finance products. That's a solid, respected career path. So what were you seeing from inside the bank that most people on the outside couldn't see?
I have a very philosophical answer, Kyle, on this. I think
Okay.
everybody, let me put it more in the Indian context on the cultural side. See,
Yeah.
we Indians are a little risk averse. For
Hmm.
example, people know that there is a problem, but
Mm.
when you get into a salary structure, to me, salaries are are like a drug addiction. It is very
Mm.
difficult to take a call and leave the salary and start business. So that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
risk averse and that drug addiction is basically, as a society, we feel is the biggest fear which India has grappled earlier. But now we are seeing a lot of changes where a lot of people are now becoming more enterprising in their thoughts in terms of execution also. So I guess that's where the problem was seen. Everybody was aware, but it's only about who decides that is something which is not taught in colleges. The
Mm.
decision
Yeah.
making capacities are not taught in colleges. The tools to decide are there, but the actual hitting the button yes is when uh, is something which is a part of the culture. That like there are certain uh, I would say certain sect in the society where they're generationally you will see the uh, generation to generation they are in the business. So that's how
Mm.
they've been culturally brought up. Now I guess
Mm.
that's where the piece is more rather than we seeing something extraordinary. The
Mhm.
difference could have been in the execution per se. The ideas or the path is known to everybody, I guess, but it's more on how do you go and execute is what made the difference.
Mm. Got it. Okay. And you mentioned being in a small branch office in Delhi, watching farmers sell not by choice but by compulsion. Can you paint that picture for someone who has never been near a mandi or a warehouse in rural India? Or what does that actually look like on the ground?
So what has happened that India has a particular mandi system that you are
Hmm.
allowed to sell by bringing those commodities to those market centers, something which we call
Hmm.
as the APMC,
Yeah.
Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee. Now, if the farmer brings a crop to that, I would say to the APMC or the mandi, the most of the time, if they don't get a reasonable price, they will have to sell it off because the infrastructure available at some of these mandis is very limited in terms of storage.
Hmm.
And the entire risk of bringing the cargo from their farm gate to the mandi is a cumbersome process. It comes at a cost. So if you have price available to you so this was a basic problem because of infrastructure. Taking back the cargo to the farm gate or to the warehouse is an additional cost. Everything is a cost. So now with Arya coming in picture, what was happening, and also a lot of I would say uh, evolution has happened on the price discovery. Now farmer gets to know prices through WhatsApp and other channels also.
Hmm.
So farmer sees the price and then decide, okay, I don't want to sell it at this price. Let me go and take this commodity to the nearest warehouse and store it and avail finance. So
Yeah.
from getting into a distressed sale, they prefer now exercising that option based on the price which is available to store and avail finance and later on sell when they find the price is getting appreciated.
Okay. Okay, got it. And so in 2012, you co-founded Arya. That's a significant leap. So from a national product head role at one of India's biggest banks to starting something from scratch. What was the conversation inside your head at that point? Was there fear or was it more clarity? Maybe if you can talk me through a bit about what you were going through at this point.
I took inspiration from the weirdest of people which people can think about. Like people will think they take inspiration from the big guy. I took inspiration from the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah,
Bottom of the pyramid means the mates which were working in India. So if I give you a context between European countries and India, the differentiation in the earnings between a white collar job and a mate is huge. And that difference
yeah.
is lesser in the Western countries or the European. Here
Mm,
there is a huge difference. So they were they were bottom of the pyramid. What I saw there, these guys enjoy life.
mm,
They are the most unskilled or uneducated people, and they live their life king size type. Means they want to attend marriages of the distant relatives. They want to do everything,
mm.
attend every function in the family. And when
Yeah,
we were in the corporate side, we were always scared. Oh, what happened if I take a 2 day leave? What will happen to my business?
yeah.
I may get. So we were constantly living in the fear and
Mm,
in a rat race that we first wanted, say, $10,000 in the account. Then when it went swelled up to 20, we thought, no, let's get to 50, we will take. Then when it became 50, we thought, let's become a million. So we kept
mm,
on in that rat race. So there was a point when I said, what will happen? I'm a MBA. I am educated. What will happen if this fails? I can go back to
mm.
industry.
Yeah,
And
sure.
skills are not taken. So what? why
Mm.
not take a risk? Let's see what happens. So that's where I guess. And when I was working in Delhi that Monday, I met a lot of people who may not have been as educated as we are. So I realized that these guys are running such a big businesses. So education has no role. The differentiator is building that skill of taking that decision. So what I
Yeah,
realized is these guys are happy taking a decision with 60-70% of data also. And we keep struggling to take a decision when we have 90-95% of the data. I said
yeah,
that's a skill which you acquire as you, and that education has no role in that. That's something which comes through your guts. So I said,
sure.
so I learned a lot from these people who are working in the mandis, that those
Yeah,
Arathiyas, those commission agents, those small time processors or the large processors. I thought education had some inputs, but end of the day, the decision making capacity is something which needs to be put into action. So I said, let's go ahead
sure.
and see what will happen.
That's a beautiful story, honestly.
Yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very inspiring. And so you wrote something that I found really honest. You said, don't fall in love with your idea, fall in love with the problem. So was there a version of Arya.ag in the early days that you had to kill because you were too attached to it?
So we were not attached in the sense that, Kyle, what has happened is when we started, we had only 10 million rupees in our account. 10 million,
Yeah,
I will translate into say dollars. We $100,000 today.
yeah, yeah.
That's the amount of money we had. And if you look at all the other entities who were our competitors, had almost two and a half, 25, almost 2.5 billion with
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
So we were competing with those people.
Yeah.
And what we real so frugality was the word from day one. Judicious spending was something from day one. So
Mm,
we did not have much money to experiment with. And while we went into the market and we were growing, I see people, and this is not because of we have learned the hard way. This is something which I have always believed this, that
hmm.
any tech can only be valued or it will only grow if people are benefiting for it. And the
Mm,
benefit has to be more than the cost.
mm.
So, and when I met a lot of people, I realized is they were looking at solving problems from their angle.
Yeah, yeah,
So you cannot solve problem from looking at your lens. You will have to
yeah.
solve problem looking at from the consumers then who are end user for that. And in that context, this is where I said don't fall in love, because I see people falling in love with their technology. And if you look at agri-tech space, a lot of techie guys have started doing agri-tech, and unfortunately some of them they could not do well because they stuck to their idea that this is
Yeah.
what India may need. The problem is not what has worked in Europe and US will work in India, because Indian
Mm,
has a difficult agri domain. See, the
mm.
amount of small and marginal farmers whom we handle are very low. And the second part to this is that a lot has been written about India in the literature, and those are outdated information. For example, if you go and search on Google, people will say India has post-harvest losses of 15 to 20%. Now, those were the figures when India were producing 40 to 50 million tons.
Mm.
Now India is producing 350 million ton. At a 15-20% loss on 350 million tons, you would have seen roads flooded with grains.
Yeah.
That is not happening. So when you start without identifying that we have 15-20% problem and we will solve this, your base itself is wrong.
Mm.
And then when you go and read saying that there's a lot of middlemen, it passes through several channels, we will go directly buy it from the farmer. That's a problem which I heard on day one when I started my career. And even in the last conference which I attended last month, people were still talking about that problem. So
Yeah.
technically, to me, is not the problem anymore. That's the
Mm.
structure in which. So, uh, if I have to put it where, that is the supply chain fragmented? Answer is yes. Is it
Mm.
inefficient? Answer is no. In the
Mm.
context of scheme in which it is operating, you need so many people to handle it.
Mm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
and the only reason why people have not been corporatized is purely cost. See, at the end of the day, Kyle, trust me, everything boils down to money.
Mm.
If a product is adding value to a
Mhm.
consumer by whatever means, it it then runs. Say Apple. Apple is priced much beyond than Android phones. because Apple has been able to add that status symbol value or the use of ease of operations or the privacy, and that's why people pay a premium.
Yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
same thing applies to agri side also, that if your product is able to add value, that is when it will sell. But
Yeah,
what I see a lot of tech guys saying, this is the problem, this is, we have seen this, it didn't work like this. So that's why I keep advising that don't fall in love with your idea.
yeah, yeah. That makes so much sense. It's very easy to get caught
Uh,
up in wanting to make it work, with your idea. But yeah, it makes complete sense what you're saying. Okay, so you talked about endurance over excuses. So the markets hand out consequences, not report cards. Were there moments at Arya.ag where the consequences were severe enough that staying the course felt genuinely irrational? And how do you distinguish between healthy persistence and stubbornness?
So, Kyle, we learned something hard way, but fortunately,
Yeah.
based on the experience which we had on the senior leadership time, we were able to
Yeah.
tide the waves. So that's how
Mm.
I'll put it. And these kinds of instances happen every year. Something new pops up, you're not aware about it. Government policies, market feedbacks, then climate changes. Everything is has an impact. So what we have realized is that the beauty of, if you have to build a business in which we are, your
Mm.
strength lies in how nimble footed you are. So you may have to keep evaluating yourself every 6 months. You cannot have a long term, you will of course have a long term view in terms of how you will run the organization, but in terms of how do you grow business, because these are short term businesses only. Agri is not a long term business, like you sell somebody a home loan and that remains in your book for 20 years. So as an
Mm.
NBFC, what loan which we are giving are 6 to 7 months. So it's like rebuilding the book, bringing it down, rebuilding, bringing it down every year twice. So in this context, the strength lies is being nimble footed. If you build that in your DNA, you will be able to manage anything and everything what comes is thrown at you. That's one. We are not firm believer of stubbornness. That's where I guess at a leadership level, if you look, we are very clear and that what we want to do. And uh, if somebody as a promoter has to take a step back for the other, we are quite okay to do that. And that's where our strength lies. And that's what
Mm.
has yielded results for us, that we are always on the same plane.
Yeah.
Stubbornness is a word which does not exist. Egos are a word which does not exist. So
Yeah.
we always believe that the leadership team, even the two or the three down people from us, uh, there's certain set of skills required. But at a leadership level, we also believe that interpersonal skills is also a very important skill which has to be there.
Yeah. Sure.
So with that element of interpersonal skills coming in, I think that stubbornness is something which does not come in.
Yeah. 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 I hear you. Okay. You the post you wrote about letting go. I want to come back to it. You said stepping away feels like losing part of yourself. For someone who has tied 13 years of identity to a mission, what does a healthy relationship with that look like? So how do you stay grounded as a person when the business becomes a lot of your life?
So I will answer this on the letting go first part.
Yes, sure.
Uh, so this is something which I admired about, say, even South Africa. You
Yeah.
pick up Jack Callis.
Yeah.
Jack Callis was one of the top guys, whether you take his batting or you take his bowling, and one of the premium rated all rounder of all times.
Mhm.
Right? You look at what period he retired.
Mhm.
They retired when they were at the peak.
Mm.
So this is what I admire in, I'm a big sportsman and I admire a lot of sports persons and celebrities from Europe, from
Mm.
Australia, from US, that these
Yeah.
people know when to let it go.
Yes.
They generally let it out at the peak.
Mm.
In India, we see people don't let it go. They will become
Mhm.
80 years and still want to, run the show. So that post was
Yes.
more from that perspective, that look at Sachin Tendulkar, one of the best guys, of a best batsman, called the god of cricket. He
Mm.
still went on till 41, 42. There is a time when
Yeah.
you just need to accept that you are no longer there and let it go. So that post basically was from the let it go
Mm.
types for those.
Yeah.
Something which helps me stay grounded is I spend 1 or 2 hours on myself every day, which could mean
Yeah.
working out or would
Hmm.
mean playing. And that's a
Yeah.
time when I shut myself from any noise of the day or anything which bothers me. I don't pick up
Mm.
the calls. I don't answer, no matter how emergency it is. I'll tell the people call me after 40, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's I would say, a way to unwind myself. And that's
Sure.
very much important in, I believe, in the life of professionals. If you don't
Hmm.
unwind yourself regularly, then the stress level can come and hit you any day.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
and the second thing which I always believe, which is you should have the ability to laugh at yourself. That you have been
Mm.
stupid, you made a mistake, you laugh it out. It really
Yeah.
serves you well. So that's two
Definitely.
things which I believe are quite helpful when it comes to unwinding yourself.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. I have a final question here. So my this show is called Finding Flow. So for you, what does being in flow actually feel like? Is it in the warehouse, in a funding room, writing? When do you feel like you're fully in it?
I would say when I'm pleased when I see action happening and action giving results.
Yeah.
So that's when it kicks me that, for example, what happened recently and that made me happy is that this year was expected to be a very uncertain year. When you were sitting
Yeah.
in the March, the El
Hmm.
Nino is coming, and something clicked to me. I did the market study and I said, this year we will have to align ourselves.
Hmm.
And the alignment is that till now we were focusing on small guys. Small guys will not store commodities this year because the last year a lot of them being wiped out. They have lost money. They don't have appetite anymore to experiment. If we have to survive, we have to go to big guys.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
we evolved a proposition and went to the larger guys. And fortunately for us, if you look at, we were 50% down on the small guys, but overall we are 20% up in comparison to
Wow.
last. So
Yeah.
for me to decide that fact and then executing it to a level where we are able to convince the entire business team of the organization and even the board members, that's what where I found the flow. See, we read it right and we
Mm.
executed it right.
Yeah.
That
Sure.
is to me a flow. If you are able to read it and then not execute it, will not be a flow. It's a
Yeah.
failure. But if you're able to gauge what is going to come, you planned and then you executed it, is I guess where the difference lies. So that is what for me is finding a flow. You're able to
Mm.
identify and you're able to crack it.
Totally. Brilliant. Well, just want to thank you, Anand, so much for this conversation. I think it's a genuinely important conversation. I feel people can really get a lot of value from this, and I really appreciate what you shared. There's a lot of really good lessons and really good insights in this. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, pal. Pleasure meeting you. Great
Pleasure
knowing
meeting
you.
you. You too.